Commodore fans, are you ready? It's time for another episode of the Vandy247 podcast on the 440 Sports Network. Keep it locked right here for the best Vanderbilt coverage. Whether it's Clark Lee on the gridiron, Mark Byington and Shea Ralph on the hardwood, or Tim Corbin on the diamond, the Vandy247 crew has you covered. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Also, like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's free and easy to do. Follow the crew on Twitter, Apple Podcast, and Spotify for podcast episodes. Lastly, if you're interested in sponsoring the show, email Chris Lee at chrislee70@gmail.com. And now, pull up a chair. It's time for another episode of the Vandy247 podcast.
Welcome back into another episode of Vandy247 Live on a Thursday morning here in Nashville, April the 3rd. I'm your host, Billy Derrick, and a little bit later I'll be joined by Cam Parker from Gators Illustrated. We'll preview this weekend's Vandy, Florida series down there in Gainesville. Important series really for both teams and maybe even more important for Florida. So we'll talk about that one coming up this weekend. But also, I want to say, be safe to everybody out there. Obviously, Vanderbilt is traveling down to Gainesville, avoiding some of the bad weather here in town in Nashville. Everybody stay safe out there. I know there was some tornadoes in the Memphis area, and especially Arkansas was hit hard, and some flooding going on right now here in Nashville. So everybody stay safe driving out there today. We're talking all baseball today, and again, our baseball coverage is brought to you by Sanders Moving, leaders among moving companies in Nashville and the surrounding area. Their team of professional movers are focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. Whether you're moving across town or across the country, Sanders Moving has you covered. Visit them at tedrsandersmoving.com. All right, without further ado, let's bring in Mr. Cam Parker from Gators Illustrated.com. Cam, how you doing?
We're doing a lot better than the Gator baseball team this season. I'll just start it with that. But I appreciate you having me on. First time, I guess, being on here. So excited to talk some baseball with you, even though it's been an interesting season in Gainesville. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. And I want to get into Florida specifically in just a second. But how's the weather down there? And are you guys expecting any bad weather? I feel like every time Vandy goes down to Gainesville, there's some rain and some delays. I know the first pitch for Saturday's game was moved to 1 o'clock. So are you expecting any bad weather down there?
Well, I've learned in 20 plus years of living in Gainesville, don't trust the weather apps necessarily. It could change on a dime. So it seems like it's going to be clear. We had some bad weather earlier this week and last weekend, but also it's April. You know, you can never right. Go into a weekend not expecting a little rain somewhere, but we'll see. They moved the game up because of the Final Four. They want fans to be able to watch both. Obviously, the Final Four for basketball is huge, but this series for baseball is also extremely important. So they want to make sure that they are able to get as many fans in the Condren ballpark as possible while still having time to go watch the Final Four and go see the Gators take on Auburn. So it's a jam-packed weekend. And then next week for football is the spring game. So I'd say they're doing a good job of trying to fit everything in and making sure people can go to everything, but we'll see. This Florida weather is unpredictable. It's about as unpredictable as Florida's baseball team right now. You don't know what you're going to get out of it.
Well, that's a good clarification. It's not due to weather. I was wondering if it was the time change was due to weather. That's you don't see that a ton, but you love to see it from ADs, especially in today's climate, moving it up for the fans. Should be a big weekend in Gainesville. Good news that we're probably getting some good weather. But let's talk about this Gators baseball team. It's interesting looking at last year, a Florida team that, as we know, scuffled and barely by the skin of their teeth made it into the NCAA tournament. And this year, off to a 1-8 start. I don't know that that's as disastrous as some people might think. I mean, Florida's still 19th in the RPI. They're in a four-way tie for 12th in the league, but this is also a league that, again, just like basketball, is loaded and might be at its best ever. I feel like we say that every year. But Cam, what has gone wrong this year for Florida, and why have things gone wrong?
I mean, to start off, they've dealt with some big injuries, and it happened in the very first game. They had Kyle Jones, a transfer at center field. He went down with an injury. He came back after maybe a week or so, and now he's out for the season. Starting second baseman Cade Curlin has been dealing with a shoulder injury. He got taken out mid at bat. They pulled him. Well, first he dislocated his shoulder trying to field the ball, missed a couple games, came back. He was mid at bat, took a swing, and he grimaced. And Kevin O'Sullivan saw it and pulled him. Then now he's out for the season, and now he's going to have shoulder surgery. Frank Menendez, a reliever, out for the season. Pierce Capola, who has a extensive injury history. He is supposed to be Florida's Saturday starter. He's still not back after dealing with an injury. Liam Peterson, Florida's ace on Friday. He goes down with an injury, but he's expected to be back. So it really has just felt like one of our writers just called it a laundry pile of injuries where it just keeps stacking up and there's no answer and nothing's really, solved it. And Florida just hasn't been able to find anyone who can step up and take their places. The pitching is just a mess right now. Kevin O'Sullivan has two broad rules for his starting pitchers. It's go 6 innings, less than 3 runs in those 6 innings. And they haven't found anybody to do that. I don't think anyone's gone 6 innings since Liam Peterson went down with an injury. It's just been a cycle of, a starter who does okay, but he can only go 3 or 4. And then the relievers just cannot pick it up. So they're having trouble finding somebody, to really carry this team, to really lead this team. Jack Caglione's not here anymore. Wyatt Langford's not here anymore. Who's going to be the guy that steps up and becomes the face of the team? And when things are going bad, well, you can rely on him. And they just haven't found that consistent answer yet.
You mentioned Liam Peterson, and my eyes perk up there because, we seeing him in spurts, that guy's a stud. You said he'll be back this weekend?
I assume so. They need him back. I don't know if they've officially announced anything, but he was supposed to be throwing, I think, in like the practice setting last week. I don't know if they've officially announced it. They need him back. I'll just say that much. They need him back this weekend. So we'll see. Just last weekend, the pitching again, they need their ace on the mound. So we'll see if he's actually able to go. I expect him, but we'll see. You never know with these kind of things. Florida kind of likes to keep it close to their chest, and especially with some of the pitching issues, I think they want to find a balance of playing it safe with him because they don't want to lose him for the long term. But they desperately need him back on the mound. They can't go so long without their ace. It's been rough without him. They need him back there.
You mentioned the pitching coming into this weekend, especially with the injuries, whether it's Pierce Capala, a guy that has pitched well in spurts for Florida, hasn't really seemed to stay healthy. You mentioned Peterson. What's kind of the rough estimate of what O'Sullivan tries to do this weekend on the mound? Does he switch things up? And if he hasn't announced it yet, what do you think it'll be?
Well, it was funny because I was talking about this with someone at another one of the baseball writers who covers football for another site, and we were trying to figure out who they were going to start because they used like 7 pitchers on Tuesday against UNF. There was like 18 combined pitchers used in that game. So we were trying to figure out like who's available, Now the benefit of having the 8 pitchers used on Tuesday is they're still well rested. There's no excuse for them to be ready to go this weekend. So Aiden King would be one I would expect to start. He was moved into the Saturday slot when Pierce Capola went down. Then when Liam Peterson went down, they moved him to Friday. So he'll be expected to start. Now that Sunday starter, I don't know. They tried Billy Barlow in that spot. Did not work out at all. Jackson Barbary, who would be my pick, he started on Tuesday. So it's unlikely that they'll start him on, this weekend. So we'll see. It's kind of anyone's game right now. I think they're still figuring out roles for the team too. Jake Clemente, who was supposed to be the Saturday starter to start the year, They moved him back to Sunday, not because like he did anything wrong. They just wanted to get right, left, right. So they moved him to right to start on, or they moved him to Sunday to get a righty in. He came out of the pen on Tuesday. So they're still kind of figuring out who's going to work where. So it's kind of anyone's guess who's going to start on Sunday. But Aiden King would be the main one I'd keep an eye on. If Liam Peterson can't go, he'll be on the Fridays. He'll be on the mound on Friday, and then if he can't go on Saturday, or if Peterson's back, he'll be on the guy on Saturday.
Cam, the reason I tell Vandy fans to kind of slow their roll when saying this weekend should be a series win. And now you look at the records, maybe you could argue that, but look at Florida's schedule. They went at number 1 now, Tennessee in the country. Obviously got swept there, but that's understandable. You probably would have liked to take one, but Gators get swept there. You get swept to a top 5 team, Georgia at home. You got to play at Ole Miss. Took one from Ole Miss, and you don't like the getting swept part. But again, you're playing a top 5 team, and of course now you're playing another top 25 team in Vandy this weekend. For Vandy's schedule, and they're sitting at 4-5. They got Auburn on the road. They took one from Auburn. They hosted Texas A&M, who you could argue is the worst team in the conference right now, at least the way they're playing right now. So Vanderbilt was able to get a sweep there, and then Arkansas at home last weekend. So Vandy's had the easier per se schedule. Offensively for Florida, what has been, because it hasn't seemed like that's been a massive issue, especially last weekend against Ole Miss. It looked like more of a pitching issue. So what offensively has kind of categorized this season for the Florida Gators?
Well, it's still been kind of inconsistent. It's been droughts and hot streaks, but they've kept the team in games. You go back to the series that you mentioned, the Tennessee series. The bats were kind of keeping them in it, and then Aiden King's Saturday start, it was close all the way through, and then they pulled him, and the relievers kind of everything spiraled out of control there, and they ended up losing that one. Georgia on Friday, they get all the way to the 9th inning, and then they give up a 2-run home run, and that's how Georgia ends up winning the game. And even then, in the bottom of the 9th, Florida had the tying run on 3rd before Brody Donay struck out. So they have capable bats. I think it's finding a balance of not getting too hot and not getting too cold. They have the power. Brody Donay can hit bombs. Just has to find a way to find some consistency in there. Colby Shelton is your consistent guy. And Brendan Lawson, the freshman, he has been an absolute just spark. He has been one of the better guys. He was I think it was the bat flip against Ole Miss, and he got ejected. So there's, he's got energy. He's got this kind of like swagger in a sense. But the bats haven't been the main concern. If the pitching was kind of capable, if it wasn't as bad as it was, then maybe people would turn to the bats and go, well, they're not putting up enough runs. You can't go a series where you put up 7 runs on Friday and then 4 combined runs over the next 2 days. This is a problem. But the pitching has been so bad that people aren't really talking about it. But they're capable on any given night to put up 7 runs. They just have to find a way to trudge through it and get some consistency. That's been the key for this entire season, is there hasn't been any consistency anywhere. When the pitching has a good day finally, the bats don't show up. When the bats are going crazy, the pitching falls apart. They got to find a way to just even it out and just play together, because they're not really playing together right now.
Well, last year you go back, Vandy took 2 or 3 in Nashville from Florida. We know, and Florida was desperate last year in that series as well. You go back, it feels like the home team in this series dominates it. If it's Vandy and Nashville, Vandy typically finds a way to win. If it's down in Gainesville, it feels like Vandy has struggled historically down there in Gainesville. I know a couple of years ago, Vanderbilt really struggled down there, and that had a huge delay there, I think, on Saturday in that series. Hopefully no delays this weekend. But what are you expecting this weekend? We know the Florida team's going to be desperate, but what are you expecting, and how do you think these two teams match up?
Well, just in a broader sense, I don't think you can ever truly count out a Kevin O'Sullivan coach team. I think last year is the prime example of that. And
Yep.
you can even argue that this year is going even worse because at least last year they had Jack Caglione and Brandon Neely, and they don't have a Jack Caglione or Brandon Neely right now. So you could argue that it's bleaker, but you can never truly count out a Kevin O'Sullivan team. You can never count out an SEC series. As you said, this is probably the best conference in baseball. Anybody can beat anybody unless it's Texas A&M, it seems like. But it's really or Missouri. You can 14 teams can beat any of them in this league. So I want to see a strong start. That's what I'm looking forward to. I want to see what happens on Friday because you're coming off of 3 just ugly series to start the year. At least you got the win against Ole Miss. That's cool. Not a series win, but at least you got the 0 out of the win column. Yeah. How do you build off of that? How do you come right back into it on Friday? One of your biggest rivals, one of the most elite teams in baseball. How do you bounce off of the getting just one win? Was that a fluke, or are you actually going to improve? How does the pitching rotation look? Is this finally going to be the weekend where guys step up? Is Liam Peterson going to be back? What about freshman Aiden King? Is he going to really find his groove? And are they finally going to have a pitcher go 6 innings and give up less than 3 runs? So I'm not in the prediction game. I usually, because my predictions end up just way wrong. This season tells me it's Vandy's series to lose, but I've also learned enough of watching this baseball team that you can never count out a Kevin O'Sullivan team. It wouldn't surprise me if they swept Vandy. It also wouldn't surprise me if they get swept. So I want to see consistency out of this team. I want to see if there's a guy who can step up in a big moment. They've had guys who they have a resume that they can step up in big moments, but they haven't shown it yet. I want to see who that guy is this weekend. I want to see who's going to step up and really take control of the leadership of this team. And I mean, it's do or die. You cannot get swept again. You absolutely cannot get swept again. You are now getting into the core portion of your SEC schedule. The season's not going to last forever. You have got to find a way to get some wins.
Big one coming up this weekend for the Florida Gators. That's Cam Parker from Gators Illustrated. Again, this weekend, you got tomorrow's game starting at 5:30 Central Time. Saturdays was moved up to 1 o'clock Central, if I'm not mistaken. Is that 2 o'clock Eastern, Cam?
It would be 1 o'clock Eastern, noon Central.
Okay, so noon Central.
Yeah, they moved it up for the Final Four game because I think that is supposed to start at around 6. So they were trying to give everyone time to get to the bars and get a seat and watch them play.
Okay, so noon Central on Saturday, and then 11 a.m. Central on Sunday. Cam, really appreciate it. Good luck with your coverage this weekend, and we'll see what happens in that basketball game too. That should be fun.
Yeah, busy weekend. Football team just had their first scrimmage. Oh, excuse me. The dog's making an appearance here. The football team just had their first scrimmage. Baseball team is desperately trying to get wins, a big series, and then obviously basketball playing in the biggest game in 11 years. So it's an exciting time for Gator sports right now, but we'll see if baseball can kind of catch up to everyone else and give the fans something good to watch this weekend.
We'll see. Should be a fun one. Cam, I appreciate it.
All right, I thank you.
All right, that's Cam Parker. Really good stuff there, covering the Florida Gators from Gators Illustrated. Does a really good job, and I got a big series coming up this weekend, Vandy and Florida. Again, I want to mention Sanders Moving. Log on to tedarsandersmoving.com for more info there. Proud sponsor of our baseball coverage this season. This podcast has been free. We plan for it to stay that way. Give us a review at a 5-star rating. That helps us get noticed. Log on to Vandy247.com to subscribe. And if you're interested in sponsoring, email Chris Lee at chrislee70@gmail.com. That'll do it for this week's last episode, previewing this series, Vandy and Florida. I'm your host, Billy Derrick. Thanks to Cam Parker for joining. We will see you guys next week.